Hi, Film Loom here today. Let's dive into the horror/action film The Mummy. Be warned, spoilers ahead. The film opens in 1127 AD, showcasing a group of English Crusader knights who capture a massive red ruby in ancient Egypt. To ensure its concealment, they bury the ruby in the tomb of a fellow knight, hoping it will remain undiscovered. We then shift to present-day London, where a construction crew unexpectedly uncovers several knights' tombs at the same location. Scientist Henry Jekyll investigates this site and suspects it ties back to the tale of Princess Ahmanet. Ahmanet was an ancient Egyptian princess who was intentionally erased from history by her own people. Through flashbacks, we learn that she was the sole daughter of a pharaoh, trained as a warrior and destined to rule. However, her ambitions were thwarted when her father remarried and had another son, who became the heir. Unwilling to relinquish her birthright, Ahmanet forged a pact with Set, the Egyptian god of death, who promised her immense power in return for helping him take over a human body. To facilitate this, he provided her with a special dagger meant to transfer his spirit into a corporeal form. Upon grasping the dagger, Ahmanet gained superhuman abilities, her body marked with tattoos, her eyes turning reddish, and her pupils doubling in size. In a ruthless act, she entered her father's chamber and killed him, his wife, and their newborn son. Ahmanet then attempted to sacrifice her lover to summon Set into the physical realm. However, the priests intervened and killed her lover, leading to Ahmanet's downfall. For her heinous crimes, Ahmanet was mummified alive and sealed within a mercury-filled sarcophagus to prevent her evil spirit from escaping. The narrative then transitions to modern-day Iraq, where we meet two American militants, Sergeant Nick Morton and Corporal Chris Vale. They are in conflict with their superiors and venture into a village overrun by insurgents. Nick is motivated by the prospect of unearthing ancient artifacts to smuggle and sell for profit. However, Chris warns him against it, highlighting the danger therein. As they search for treasures, they find themselves ambushed by enemy forces. Gunfire erupts, with insurgents attacking from all sides. Outnumbered and low on ammunition, Nick and Chris face a daunting challenge, setting the stage for the chaos that will unfold as the story progresses. With no other viable option, Nick Morton orders an airstrike to eliminate the insurgents surrounding them. Shortly after, military aircraft arrive, unleashing missiles that devastate the village. Explosions rock the area, causing the ground to collapse and opening a gaping hole. Nick and his companion, Chris Vale, are unexpectedly sucked into it. To their astonishment, they discover a massive sarcophagus at the bottom, none other than the tomb of Princess Ahmanet. Realizing the artifact is too heavy to be smuggled away, Nick informs their commanding officer, Colonel Greenway, about the discovery. Greenway soon arrives with a team of soldiers to investigate the impressive find. Accompanying him is British archaeologist Jenny Halsey, who surprises Nick with a slap upon their meeting. It turns out they had a brief fling in Baghdad just days prior, and while she was asleep, Nick had snagged her map leading to the tomb. After the awkward reunion, Nick, Chris, and Jenny grab their flashlights and descend into the ominous hole to investigate further. Inside, they encounter a tomb guarded by sphinxes, oddly positioned to face inward rather than outward. Several chains are visibly holding the sarcophagus in place, raising Jenny's intrigue. Upon examining the discovery, she realizes the tomb's contents could be worth millions of pounds. As they delve deeper, they find mercury flowing throughout the site. Jenny explains that in ancient Egyptian mythology, mercury is believed to sap the power of demons. The eerie atmosphere unnerves Chris, prompting him to suggest they retreat. However, Nick and Jenny are determined to explore, irritating Chris further. In a fit of frustration, he shoots the chain binding the sarcophagus, causing it to rise. Suddenly, a swarm of camel spiders emerges, and one bites Chris. As chaos ensues, Nick experiences a vision of Princess Ahmanet, who expresses gratitude for her release and refers to him as my chosen one. Snapped back to reality, Jenny pleads with Nick to aid in moving the tomb. They manage to load the sarcophagus onto the aircraft, intending to transport it to London. However, Chris's behavior becomes increasingly erratic following the spider bite. He inexplicably tries to open the sarcophagus, alarming Greenway, who forbids him from doing so. In a moment of frenzy, Chris violently stabs Greenway, shocking the other soldiers into action. Seeing the chaos unfold, Nick wrestles a gun from one of the soldiers. A catastrophic plane crash leaves no survivors, or so it seems. Nick's selfless act of giving Jenny the only parachute saves her life as the aircraft plummets into the English countryside. The aftermath reveals a scene of devastation, with the bodies of soldiers laid out in a morgue. However, a startling event occurs. Nick, presumed dead, awakens, tearing through the plastic bag that contained him. He discovers, to his astonishment, that he bears no injuries or scars. A spectral figure appears, Chris's ghost, delivering a chilling message. Nick is cursed by Ahmanet, an ancient Egyptian princess seeking to use him as a vessel for Set, the god of death. Before Chris can elaborate, Jenny and medical personnel enter the morgue, witnessing Nick's miraculous resurrection. They remain oblivious to the ghostly presence. Meanwhile, at the crash site, two officers inspect the wreckage. They discover the sarcophagus, broken open by the impact, and Ahmanet's mummy within. A gruesome scene unfolds as Ahmanet awakens, fatally attacking one officer and draining his life force. The second officer, arriving to find his partner's mutilated body, becomes Ahmanet's next victim. This act of life force absorption regenerates Ahmanet, restoring her human form. She then commands the two corpses to rise as her undead servants. Nick and Jenny seek answers at a local pub, grappling with Nick's inexplicable return. Jenny expresses her gratitude for his sacrifice and reveals her decipherment of the hieroglyphs on the sarcophagus. She recounts the tale of Ahmanet and her pact with Set, explaining the significance of the Dagger of Set, an artifact capable of granting Set physical form when combined with its ruby-topped handle. Jenny believes the dagger is hidden somewhere in Europe, having been stolen by English crusaders. Their quest leads them to the crash site, where Nick guides Jenny to an ancient, abandoned structure, the burial site of the English crusaders. While exploring the site, Nick experiences a blackout, finding himself transported to a church. He is confronted by a vision of Ahmanet, who attempts to seduce him, promising him power and immortality if he accepts her in Set. Nick resists, rejecting her advances. Back in the real world, Jenny witnesses Nick's trance-like state and attempts to rouse him. However, Ahmanet's influence manifests, causing Nick to attack Jenny, who is saved by the timely intervention of a group of armed soldiers. The soldiers. The scene shifts to a location where zombies have captured and restrained Nick. Ahmanet makes a dramatic entrance, proclaiming him her chosen one. With a flourish, she destroys a statue, revealing the Dagger of Set concealed within. As Ahmanet prepares to complete the ritual that will transform Nick into Set, she abruptly stops, noticing the ruby is missing from the dagger's hilt. Jenny's arrival creates a distraction, drawing Ahmanet's attention and enraging the princess. She turns her fury towards Jenny, giving Nick an opportunity to break free. Wielding the dagger, he fights off the zombies, subduing them. Nick and Jenny manage to escape, driving away in their van. However, their escape is short-lived as more zombies block their path, causing the van to crash. Ahmanet approaches the wreckage, but armed men suddenly appear, firing mercury-tipped bullets at her. They successfully restrain her and assist Nick and Jenny from the wreckage. The next scene reveals a hidden facility beneath the Natural History Museum of London. Nick observes strange artifacts, including a skull with fangs and a scaly forearm, as he is led through its halls. He meets Henry Jekyll, Jenny's boss, who introduces himself as the leader of Prodigium, a secret organization dedicated to containing dark forces. Ahmanet is heavily restrained within the facility, with mercury pumped through her veins to keep her subdued. Henry informs Nick that Prodigium is the only organization capable of removing his curse, but Ahmanet interjects, declaring his fate sealed and the curse irreversible. Meanwhile, a Prodigium archaeological team excavating the Crusader's tomb discovers the missing ruby. Ahmanet senses this discovery through her supernatural connection. To break free, she summons a spider, directing it to crawl into the ear of a Prodigium technician. The possessed technician sabotages the machine pumping mercury into Ahmanet, freeing her. Henry and his team learn of the ruby's discovery and Ahmanet's escape. As Henry prepares to inject himself with a serum, Nick stops him, demanding answers about their intentions. Henry reveals their plan. Nick, as Ahmanet's chosen vessel for Set, must be killed. He insists it is a necessary sacrifice to protect humanity. Enraged and unwilling to accept this fate, Nick steals the serum and attempts to flee. His escape proves to be a grave mistake. Henry Jekyll's serum, meant to suppress his monstrous alter ego, Edward Hyde, fails, unleashing the violent creature. A guard manages to evacuate Jenny, but Nick is trapped with Hyde, who brutally attacks him. Jenny desperately attempts to break through the bulletproof glass separating them, but her efforts are futile. Just as Nick's situation becomes dire, he manages to seize the syringe and inject Hyde, restoring him to Henry. With the situation resolved, Nick and Jenny leave the facility, determined to find and destroy the ruby. Meanwhile, Ahmanet breaks free from her restraints, killing several soldiers and absorbing the life force of numerous Prodigium personnel before reclaiming the Dagger of Set. Unleashing her dark powers, she shatters the glass within Prodigium headquarters and proceeds to the Crusaders' tomb, resurrecting the knights. The zombie knights swiftly eliminate the remaining Prodigium soldiers, allowing Ahmanet to retrieve the ruby and restore it to the dagger. Nick and Jenny encounter Chris's ghost, who guides them towards the ruby. However, they are intercepted by the resurrected Crusaders. The ensuing battle causes them to fall into the sewer. Despite the disadvantageous environment, they fight fiercely, with Nick dispatching numerous Crusaders. After escaping the sewer, they attempt to reach the surface, but Ahmanet appears and drags Jenny underwater. By the time Nick reaches them, Jenny has drowned. Grief-stricken and enraged, Nick attacks Ahmanet, but he is no match for her power. She injures him and taunts him, claiming Jenny is in a better place and that fates worse than death exist. She then grabs him, urging him to surrender, promising he will thank her in the end. Seemingly convinced, Nick allows Ahmanet to kiss him. However, it is a ruse. He swiftly seizes the dagger from her grasp. Instead of completing the ritual with Ahmanet, Nick makes a crucial decision. He plunges the dagger into himself, destroying the ruby within his own body. This act simultaneously destroys Ahmanet, preventing Set's resurrection and freeing Nick from the curse. The floodwaters engulf the tomb as Ahmanet disintegrates, leaving behind only the dagger. In the aftermath, Nick is resurrected by the power he absorbed from Ahmanet, now wielding some of her abilities. He is seen in Cairo, using his newfound powers to contain another supernatural threat, suggesting his new role as a protector against dark forces. Hoping to permanently end Ahmanet's power, Nick prepares to destroy the ruby. Ahmanet attempts to dissuade him, promising godhood and control over life and death if he allows himself to be possessed. Nick considers this, his gaze falling upon Jenny, realizing his deepest desire is to bring her back. However, he understands the ritual would give Ahmanet control over him. After a moment of contemplation, he chooses a different path, stabbing himself in the heart. This act triggers the transformation, his eyes splitting into two sets of pupils. Ahmanet is ecstatic, believing she has won. Nick approaches her, and she anticipates a kiss, but he instead unleashes his newfound powers, attacking her relentlessly. He easily overpowers her, pinning her down and draining her life energy. Ahmanet collapses, reverting to her mummified form. Nick then uses his powers to resurrect Jenny. Upon regaining consciousness, she finds him missing, causing confusion. She eventually spots him hiding in the shadows. Despite her pleas, he refuses to show his face, making her realize he sacrificed himself to save her. With tears in her eyes, she begs him to stay, but Nick bids her farewell, knowing he is no longer human. Days later, Henry and Jenny watch as Ahmanet's mummified remains are sealed within a mercury-filled sarcophagus, ensuring her eternal imprisonment. Meanwhile, in the desert, Nick reappears, having resurrected Chris. The two friends ride off on horseback, embarking on a new adventure. This ending suggests Nick has embraced his new reality, using his powers alongside his resurrected friend, Chris, to confront other supernatural threats, leaving Jenny behind to live a normal life, forever grateful for his sacrifice.